DTM. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're well and doing great. Looking forward to today's session. I know Bitcoin is breaking down, losing some important level. Nevertheless, CTM 2.0, unless you are participating on the downside, I know that some people are using the settings on the downside. I'm not. Those that are, I imagine that they're sitting in some nice profit right now, open profit. That's looking good. But me, myself, for this past 27% down move, it just has me on the sidelines. It's been fantastic and it's been great. I feel like because of the, I understand that potentially a lot of people out there might be suffering right now. I love Mausch and Initiative's attitude where he's like, this is cheap Bitcoin and I'm buying it. I feel like we all have our awareness about, going back even to the beginning of January, just saying in light of current Fed policy at this point, we need to be, cautious, at times cautiously optimistic until they look to pivot. And it looks like the market is trying to push them to pivot. We got some Fed speakers tomorrow. And then the big data print of the week is obviously the CPI on Wednesday. And the market is really going to be honing in on what is happening over here. And if we see any signs of that flatlining, it was the week before last, we started talking about this potentially could be like peak CPI year-over-year readings. And if we start seeing it come in line or down a little bit, that will then take those rate high expectations, which are priced to perfection, and start bringing them in. And that might give some type of relief rally. We've seen some big technical breakdowns in the equity markets. Across Bitcoin now, 35,000. What's going on, everyone? This is Jordan with Conquer Trading and Investing. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're not, welcome back. Look, here's what I'm going to say as far as calling a bottom. The only way that we know that we are beginning to bottom would be the next time that the CTM 2.0 gives us a green signal. I don't think that that's going to be the very bottom. I don't think that will be like a V recovery. And it could be, but I don't think so. The line of this slope, like this yellow line over here I talked about before getting into that like big bull move, price goes up along this slope. That's my expectations. And whenever it is, but coming into this end of the year, that we're above $60,000 on Bitcoin and price is normally above, somewhere within that range, getting ready for whenever we'll ignite that new bull run. And who knows what it is. In the meantime, a lot could happen, including actually the stock market, like in 2018, actually pushing the Fed to, or I should say the credit markets, pushing the Fed to pivot, where it could be a lot lower. But it seems to me with the almost controlled destruction taking place that we are closer to the Fed pivoting than not, unless we see this like risk rally on the CPI reading coming in year over year. And at that point, the market's saying, you know what, we might have overreacted as markets and investors normally do. This is the bright line over here. This is the prime trend line. And price spends most of its life above that price. So you can see there are times that it is traded up along that line. That's usually before it's broken out into that bull market. You can see again over here, price riding up that trend line. This is the front running that occurred already. The front running of the halving began early. Investors seem to be earlier and earlier. But then we had the lockdowns and the crisis, and that's when Bitcoin really came back down. But then it continued riding that line again until it broke out into the bull market. You could see that similarity of price riding before the breakout. Price is currently into that trend line right now. Again, something could break, right? The result of that breakage, most people believe, will be a reaction by the Federal Reserve and government of just printing money and issuing it out. Nevertheless, one could happen. If one happens, it looks like the downside risk is somewhere around $28,000. Potentially going off of this look over here, even lower, somewhere around, let's call it, if it were to happen this week, $25,000. True trend BTC 333 period. You can see that it's actually coming close to what would be a capitulation event. 3-day time frame in the past when it has gone red. that has been close to the bottom. Obviously, over here in 2018, there was a lot of downside from 5,200 to 3,200, 45% plus move after turning red, right? What about on the way out on the green? How about that for a beautiful entry, right? How about that for a beautiful entry each and every time? But you don't really get to pick, you don't know whether or not we reset to red. You can see even when the true trend was at some pretty euphoric levels over here, price just never went euphoric, which means that the same could be true on the downside. So this is wild. Log trend lines. These come from the CT&I meta model. These are the trend lines introduced January 2021, and CTM just started experimenting with finding what exactly was the correct alignment for these trend lines on these log charts. These haven't moved or changed. The work that we've recently just have been uncovering, the life cycle of technology, the break of 35,000, the channel running channel support for over a year is now broken to the downside. That's a big technical breakdown. What it means, it's too soon to know. It could mean that we are looking at, one of two things either happens from here. Either we are looking at a prolonged bear market period with price coming off another X amount of percent, or we could be putting in a bottom. All right, so we're looking at the structure of Bitcoin. Posting this is interesting over here. Is right now price currently post or pre-capitulation. I can make a case for either, where price is currently sitting over here looking at the 3-day chart with the true trend 333 period. If you believe that the market's topped in April, then you most likely also believe Bitcoin is close to bottoming right now. If you believe that Bitcoin topped in November, then you think, or probably most likely believe, there are many more months to go in the bear market. For me, myself, it looks like a new structure, but this is beautiful right over here. This response over here, it makes more sense when you add the RSI, I guess. And the RSI, it did show over here. You could see the top in April. You could see over here the top in December 2018. You could see over here the top November 30th in 2013. And the RSI had that overbought reading each time. And in November, when price made the higher high, the RSI actually, it did not. It put in a lower high. Now, it was a different lower high than these past two cycles in that it had a higher reading. You can see over here, this is just going back one cycle. RSI under 70 over here. Same thing, 2013 peak after Bitcoin puts in that high. And then it came up and it only made it to about 60, but definitely under 70. Here this time, we see that price didn't put in that extended, overextended euphoric high. And right now, some people are looking for Bitcoin to come back down into the zone that has occurred on these past. So, I mean, potentially it could. There's no question about that. Obviously, focusing on the Fed and Fed policy, they're tightening until something breaks. Something could break in the next 2 or 3 months. I mean, Jerome, the Fed doesn't think so. Now, it's true the market could try to push the Fed to pivot, but for sure, Jerome Powell is very clear that he feels the economy is in a strong enough place to be able to withstand this tightening, and they plan on taking this tightening quickly and as far as they could go until it breaks. If you do believe that the RSI was showing you a peak in April, you're probably looking at this current bear market 12 months now coming to an end, as this bear market lasted 12 months and as this one did. Whether that means that this one is I think we're looking at a new structure. You have to be very authentic and honest with yourself. And it was this roadmap over here that helped with this roadmap over here, especially coming out of that bear market, being able to position early and front run, not from the bottom, the 2020 halving and the 2020 halving up until the market top. And or in such a position that you continue to hold. That's the position most Bitcoiners are in. Most Bitcoiners have been holding long enough that it's suited in their best interest to keep holding. Generally, those that bought Bitcoin over towards this April, May top, again in November, they're the ones selling it currently. Those that have been holding Bitcoin for an extended period of time, they're not selling Bitcoin. Could we see some type of capitulation? Again, That's all dependent of whether or not you see the markets break anytime soon. But let's look at this authentically. And if you're looking at the RSI making that higher high in April, I want you to look back what happened over here. After that first wave, price came in, made like an S and whipped up. As this happens in real time, whether or not, does this look more similar to this? Or did this look more similar to 2017? No, it looked much more similar to 2013. Lots of people looking for that rip up over here out of the S. And it got as far as 69,000 and it didn't rip up. It actually broke down. Now, we were able to, $53,000 on that break round, talk about what an important break that was, that level. That meant that the model was wrong. That's the advantage of having a model, is when it's wrong. If you don't have a model, you have no idea where you are or what your expectations are or what you're doing. For me and myself, I'm holding my Bitcoin. I continue to hold my spot Bitcoin. $35,000 is, I'm making sure everyone knows, that's another important level. Break below that and we're trading lower. Some people might want to use this as an opportunity to go ahead and deleverage if they haven't already. I think you're late if you haven't already deleveraged. I used this opportunity here at $35,000 just this past Friday for the first time in 6 months to dollar cost average Bitcoin. Generally, the smart money is accumulating during these bear market drawdowns, and then they're distributing on the way up. Lots of retail, what they do is they try to time the bottom. They try to catch a falling knife that may or may not come. This is a really good roadmap for helping you understand where we are. Now, by the time the true trend turns red, it's too late. It's over. That's like you're getting towards the bottom end of the range of the bear market. That red is actually buy Bitcoin. These are people who have longer term investment horizons. Anytime you get into that level. Now, there's no, granted, price could come off over here 40%. It could come off more, but it could come off another 40% and trade down to $20,000. Of course it can. You have to be ready. You have to be prepared for anything. I personally would not ever invest anything into Bitcoin that I couldn't afford to lose. And that's literally my stop loss. My stop loss is 0. I'm not selling Bitcoin. Probably and most likely, the smarter way to look at this over here as price consolidates over here, true trend giving some historically low readings. This is a time to be buying, accumulating Bitcoin. You look to distribute on the way up. This is really what I wanted to get into. You all know we've taken a look at over here the life cycle of new technology, showing expected January 2023, looking for Bitcoin to be trading $60,000, most likely higher. Price normally trades higher than the mean line. I am including on the model both. I don't know which is correct. How could I? There's no way. So to have the most relevant data, the most important data that could be useful to us, including both of them over here. And at the same time, it's very important that we lean into our CT&I linear trend lines that we used before the breakout of the bull market. This is the structure we used of the market until Bitcoin made new all-time highs. It hasn't changed though, even including the April to May high is a clone trend line of that whole structure of the market. It's the line that just broke here at 35,000. That's why it was such an important technical breakdown. By the way, the breakout of the bear flag was even better, 37,000. But I wanted that big confirmation and calling a big technical breakdown, right? And there it is. The channel has broken and Bitcoin is coming off, and Bitcoin could come off. We were just showing you the point I want to make is that, it could come off 25% into that $25,000 level, but it could come off more. This is linear now, and we have all the way into the clone trend line off of the crisis, dollar liquidity crisis low. That's coming in closer to $19,000. Yeah, that's almost 45% away from the break of 35,000. Another 37% lower. It's possible, and I just want everyone to make sure that their expectations are as clear as can be. As clear as can be. As I showed on the purpose of this video, I want to know what are my best levels to look at. I think we have to lean into our CTM log trend lines as well, and then also be focusing down over here on the linear. And at the same time, I think this calls for just applauding what we're building here and just knowing that it's when to be out of the market is just important as anything. And that was something that we said on the very first day of launch. The holy grail is knowing when to be in the market and on what side. And that means when not to be in the market. And CTM 2.0 is doing an extraordinary job. Listen, when this bottoms or anything like that, again, we have our levels. That's all we could look at from here. If we lose this very important level 25,000, at that point we have to lean into the linear. That's coming all the way down over here. Here's that trend line break right around where my mouse is right now. Below there, it would get really sketchy. We're at a level right here in the equity markets that will cause a lot of capitulation. 4,000 on the S&P 500. Big technical breakdown. Right? This is why horizontals is late, and I'm late on this, and so much as that this was the rally, the relief rally. I was looking for the relief rally, but I thought it went a little bit higher and a little bit longer, and instead it got smashed down and quickly. And horizontal is always late. Horizontal, you're wrong, and again, this is where I say or know that this is where I did all the work on the markets crashing again, well in advance. Not today as they're happening. I made sure that CTM, with as much forward time looking as possible, was prepared for these situations, which is why today, as it's unfolding, it's not really a big deal, right? Like, we were very prepared for it all. So there we are. S&P 500, it is breaking down, making that leg down. And just going back to how we ended off on Bitcoin, that big technical breakdown below 35,000, that means that we could be looking at a prolonged bear market with much lower legs down now that if we have any type of bottom and repair out, well, that's fine also. We'll be there. That's not happening today. When it happens, we'll see it very easily. We'll see it. And it's not going to be on the first bounce here because we got to wait for the 70 period to turn over positive, and however long that takes before we have a double positive. At that point, Bitcoin will be bottoming. So rather than trying to catch that fallen knife, just wait for it to actually bottom out. If you want to see just like two small examples of that bottoming out, you could look back to March 2020. Here, like instead of trying to in all this tension over here, trying to catch that bottom, no, you wait, it's bottoming, and here's the time that it'll bring us back towards being long on the market. And that could be through sideways consolidation, right? For a while. Here's when it really breaks out. That's the other one I want to go to off the bottom over here. Again, CTM taking you out. This is the bottom capitulation, just getting on the sidelines. That's where we don't know where this ends. We're not trying to time it. We're not trying to catch it. We can with our trend lines. We've looked at videos before on how to trade out of a bear market. Nevertheless, as we've just seen this past week, after the Fed meeting, when a lot of people bought into that CTM 2.0, kept you on the sidelines. You wait for it to bottom, maybe take a nice little, swing trade gain over there. But once it starts getting up again, we will be there. Whenever it is. And I don't know when that is or anything like that. But I know that we will be positioned at the right time and perfectly for it. And I hope we continue to do all that we can in putting the work in to have the awareness that we have, to do our best for anyone who wants to make decisions. They have this to use as a vantage point of forming their own opinion, and it's really helpful. That's why we talked about 53,000 break. That's why we talked about $35,000 break. These are important technical breakdowns, and here we are today. So anyone who's having a bad day because of the price, I feel bad about that. Nevertheless, let's get on signal. Let's get focused and make sure that as time goes by, it just becomes more and more apparent the benefit of having that clarity to know exactly where you should be at all times. I have these lines in here. I suppose this one, I would like to get this perfect. Should be a little less visible because it's not that important. These two are important, right? The bright one is the most important. The bright that one right now is the line that I use as what the forecast of the model is. And I also, by the way, expect that price most of the time is above it. Nevertheless, it is in one of those rare occasions right now where it's trading below it. price has not really stayed below it throughout Bitcoin's history. It's like a total of 150 days. That's it. It doesn't usually last too long below. Could this time be different? Of course. This time could be different. If this time is different, how will we know? Well, we'll have that breakdown of this area over here, $25,000. That's the lowest deviation that we have. If that breaks, this time is different. Something's different. And is it going to be something like the Fed coming in and expanding their balance sheet? Last time it was $4.1 trillion. Are they going to come in now and expand it by another 10 trillion, bringing it to $20 trillion? I don't know. They'll do whatever it takes. That's the bullish case for Bitcoin, is the continued devaluation of the dollar. It is a Ponzi scheme. They can taper it. They can pull away liquidity until something breaks. And then either what they have to do is come in and just flood the system again, which is going to cause inflation. So it's almost as it's either way. If they bring this down deflationary and they crash this down deflationary, which is the greatest risk. We don't talk about it enough. We have talked about it, though, for a long time here on this channel. The greatest risk is that the Fed doesn't come to the rescue, and that since their incentives are different than our own, they let the system crash into a deflationary spiral. It's possible. It doesn't seem like that's what they're looking to do, or that's certainly not since 2008. That has not been the way they see things. Could that be changing now with inflation, or could they just be in the process of creating a problem in order to provide the solution and an introduction of digital dollars? Look, that's something we talk about, something we worry about. It doesn't look like that they are ready to be implementing any type of introduction of digital dollar at this particular point in time, but you never know. That's very important, right, Dale? And I feel like absolutely crushing it, right? It's DA. That's how I feel we are now. I prefer when the price goes up. And right now, market's definitely under turmoil. Obviously, everyone on edge. And we are entering a zone where we could see some continued forced liquidations. That's why at $53,000, we were like, okay, something is not right. This is wrong. Take profits, de-risk down. I paid off loans. And then when you're in this situation, just holding spot is not a big deal. You have CTM 2.0 to now generate that alpha, and it's outperforming everything. It's absolutely insane. GBTC setting that up. It's just not, you're on the sidelines. Anyway, CTM strong, and that's what we're going to be doing, is just making sure that we have the clearest view at all times of what's happening. All right, everyone. Thanks for being here today. Big day, $35,000 break. We made sure that everyone understood and knew ahead of time, not after. And that's what investing's about. It's a good idea to have some type of expectations, even upside price targets. And I wish that my upside price targets came to fruition. They didn't. I expected this past cycle here to run out much, much, much higher, right? At the same time, I decided when shown wrong, I don't want to sell my Bitcoin. Look, I plan on being one of those people at one point in time that's holding Bitcoin for over 10 years. You don't get to hold Bitcoin for 10 years or longer if you sell your Bitcoin. There's only one way to do it. And I understand that. Here we are on this Monday, Black Monday, as it might be. All right, everyone. May God bless you.